The average federal employee, when going to retire, stands on the precipice of four critical mistakes that they could make that could ruin their retirement or potentially cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars in retirement if they don't do these things correctly. Hi, I'm Micah Shalansky, and after specializing in federal benefits and being a financial planner for over 25 years, helping individuals just like you be able to retire, I've learned a few things about federal benefits, and I want to share those secrets, those insights with you so you make good choices in your retirement. So give me about 12 minutes and I'll show you exactly how most people can potentially ruin their first retirement, but more importantly, how to make sure you don't. The first mistake whenever I get into this, people are automatically like, Micah, I got this, no problem whatsoever. So I'm going to explain the mistake. I'm going to go through the math, but then wait until the end of that mistake when I throw a little catch in there that does catch a lot of people by surprise. Mistake number one, not choosing the correct survivor benefit. Now, you could think that this is a no-brainer one way or another. I meet with people on both sides. This is Micah, this is a no-brainer. I don't need survivor benefits. This is a no-brainer. I need full survivor benefits. And what does that mean? But let's take a quick minute and go through a case study and see exactly what these dollar amounts mean. And let's not just dismiss it right off the bat. So Robert was getting ready to retire, had over 30 years of federal service, getting ready to retire. His pension was going to be a little over $3,200 a month. Let's just call it $3,000 a month because it's going to make my math easy in the example, right? Now, in addition to his pension, he was going to be eligible for Social Security at his full retirement age, FRA. He was going to have about $2,500 a month that's going to be coming in. So he's going to have $3,000 from his pension, $2,500 from his Social Security, bringing about $5,500 a month just with his income. Now, Robert was also married, and Suzanne's income, she worked in the private sector, so she paid into Social Security. She has a 401k savings, right? But she doesn't have any other pension. So her Social Security at full retirement age was going to be about $3,000 a month. Well, you start adding it up. Well, $3,000 for his pension, $2,500 for his Social Security, $3,000 for her Social Security. That's $8,500 a month in income that would be coming in without touching their investment savings. They only want to spend about $9,000 a month. So I said, Micah, what do we need survivor benefits for? If I choose survivor benefits, it's going to cost me 10% of my pension, right? So about $300 a month. Let's say that $300 a month for a year is $3,600 for a year times 10 years. That's $36,000 they would be paying for survivor benefits. Does it really make sense to do that? By the way, if you're following along with the math at home, yes, I didn't adjust for potential cost of living increases with that. It's just an easy example, right? But you're going to spend $36,000. Do you get a return on that money? What's the purpose of that? Well, let's make sure when we're doing a financial plan, we not only look at retirement income while you both are alive, but if only one of you is alive as well. And guys, I always pick on you first. So Robert passes away. What scenario is out there for Susan? Let's go through the math. Well, if he has his pension, his first pension, $3,000 a month, and leaves no survivor benefit, that means there's no survivor benefit. So that paycheck that he was getting in retirement, his retirement pension that he could have got for his life and his bride's is now gone. So that goes to zero. What about his Social Security? Does Susan get to keep that? Susan gets to keep the higher of his Social Security or her Social Security, whichever is greater. Her Social Security is more at $3,000 a month. His was only $2,500. So she keeps her benefit. What does that mean? Lost his Social Security and his pension. So that's $5,500 a month in permanent income that Susan lost. This could be devastating to her retirement, right? Depends on how much assets she had, life insurance, all these other things are going to factor in. But we really got to weigh heavy on the survivor benefit because it leaves an important income. Had Robert had left a full survivor benefit, now full, by the way, means half, right? That's the most you can leave under the FERS system is a 50% benefit. It would have cost him $300 a month, but he would have left a $1,500 a month benefit for Susan. So what's the important part about this? It's just math. We got to run the math out and see how much of a survivor benefit does your bride need? Does your spouse need, right? How much of a benefit do they need? Do we need to have life insurance? Do you not need to have life insurance? This is a math equation. It shouldn't be an emotional equation. But here's the catch. The best benefit you have is not your pension. Now, I like your pension. It's great. The best benefit you have is not your TSP. I love your TSP. It's fantastic. It grows. It can do some amazing things for you, but those are not your best benefit. What do I think your best benefit is? Your FEHB, your federal employee health insurance. In order for you to maintain your FEHB in retirement, you got to pass two rules. You got to be an FEHB for 5 years prior to retirement, and you as the federal employee must retire with the eligibility of an immediate pension. Those are the first two requirements. Your spouse also have two requirements. They must be in FEHB before you pass away, and they must be receiving a survivor benefit. When Robert elected not to give a survivor benefit to his spouse, he disinherited her permanently for health insurance. She can never maintain that health insurance after Robert passes away. This is a problem, right? That's a pretty big benefit that could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to replace that like-kind benefit in the private sector. So be really careful of that one. The second mistake federal employees make when they're preparing to retire is they fail to account for tax-free income. Right now, we all want tax-free income, but there's a price to get it. So let's see if you can finish this line that I hear a lot, and it's a misconception for I think for a lot of my clients, most of the people that I see. When I retire, my taxes will be less. So many people are told that. I hear that again and again as I'm teaching, as I'm working with federal employees. And that's a great concept, right? I'd love my taxes to be less when I retire. But let's walk through that logically. Let's say I want to retire and I want to have $8,000 a month in income. That's what I'm spending right now. I'm spending $8,000 a month. I want to keep my spending the same when I go to retire. Well, that sounds like fantastic. I'm spending 8 grand now. I want to spend 8 grand then. Maybe it's 12 grand, maybe it's 20 grand, whatever that number is, you want to keep it the same. Well, let's start looking at your sources of income. Your pension, taxable. Your Social Security, taxable. Your TSP, your pre-tax investments, taxable. Pre-tax 401ks, IRA, all taxable income. So if you go into retirement and all of the income that you're going to be getting is taxable income and you want to spend the same net amount, how are your taxes going to be lower in retirement? Right? In order for your taxes to be lower in retirement, we have to be proactive. This is where tax-free savings comes in. Max funding Roth TSPs, Roth 401ks, Roth IRAs. Pro and a con with the Roths, right? Roth, the great part is the growth can be 100% tax-free as long as we leave the money in there for 5 years and 59 and a half, right? But we got to pay taxes on our contributions. This is the downside. When I put money in my pre-tax TSP, I put $25,000 in there. I get a $25,000 tax deduction today. Man, that feels really good. But now all my pre-tax TSP is taxable when I go to take the money out. The Roth TSP, I put $25,000 in there. Absolutely amazing. But then as it grows, well, I get no tax deduction for that 25 grand, right? So I got to pay taxes from somewhere else. But now as that grows, it's 100% tax free. So what's the best answer? Both. It really depends on your situation. One is not, well, okay, I really like the Roth IRAs, right? I really do. But it's a math equation, just like survivor benefits. What makes the most sense for you? We need to solve with your goals in mind. How much income do you want to have? Where does that need to come from? Now, if you're thinking, am I making these mistakes or what other mistakes could I potentially be making with my FERS retirement? Then we can help. Our retirement review is designed to answer the questions that most federal employees have and show you exactly what you need to do to fix those things. You're going to get clear, actionable answers based on your exact FERS benefits and your retirement goals. When you're ready, just scroll down, click the link to schedule your consultation. Let's jump into the third mistake that we see federal employees potentially going to make. Net versus gross. I know I've talked about this before, but it's worth mentioning again. Net versus gross is so important. Federal employees, they look at their pension statement. They're like, man, that $3,500 a month, fantastic. That's at least one of my paychecks. I get so excited, Mike. I'm halfway to my retirement goal just with my pension. But what are they comparing? They're comparing their net, how much they got from their paycheck every 2 weeks deposit in their bank account, to their gross pension amount. And those aren't the same, right? From our gross pension, we got to pay for survivor benefits. We got to pay for health insurance. That premium keeps going up. We got to pay for taxes. Without proper tax planning, that bill will probably go up in retirement. Any life insurance, long-term care insurance, potentially Medicare could come out of your pension as well, right? So all of those things are deductions or reductions from your pension. So the most important part when you're doing your planning is we accurately figure what your net is. Now, most retirement softwares that the federal government uses inaccurately calculates your tax withholdings, right? They assume that says, hey, you're married, you're only going to make $3,000 in a pension. That means you and your spouse only have $36,000 in income. That puts you in a really low tax bracket. They withhold virtually nothing in their projection for taxes. But that's generally not accurate because you have multiple sources of income. So you got to make sure when you're getting that projection from the feds, you got to make sure they're adequately withholding for either real taxes that you're going to pay in retirement and potentially that state income taxes as well. The fourth mistake that we see people people run into is not adequately planning for Social Security. Now, Social Security, you get the first supplement potentially if you retire with a full retirement under the age of 62. You might be eligible for a little first supplement, which is beautiful. Then most people think, hey, at 62, just turn that income on. And you can do that. But Social Security is a little bit more, should require a little bit more planning than just turn it on at 62, FRA at 70. Let me give you a couple of examples where I think people make mistakes. They look at this from a life expectancy standpoint. This is, well, Mike, if I turn it on at 62, I got to live till 80 in order to break even, or whatever that number is going to be based on their calculations. And this is, well, I may or may not live to 80, so I might as well turn it on now. Okay, well, that's an option. But let me give you a couple things to think about. Number one, your survivor benefit is based on, for your spouse, is based on your Social Security. So what does that mean? If you turn your Social Security on now and it's only $1,500 a month, but you would have waited until 70 when maybe it was $4,000 a month. When you die, your spouse gets 100% of their benefit or 100% of yours, whichever is greater. So the higher earning spouse, the one with more Social Security, maybe we should think about delaying getting their Social Security, having that income grow more and more and more, get a higher number so that when that spouse passes away, the surviving spouse gets that higher Social Security benefit. So let's think about survivor benefits. Also, let's think about tax planning. What happens with taxes, right? When I turn that Social Security income on, it's more than likely taxable income that's going to come in. So now that raises my tax bracket. Okay, well, it's going to happen at some point in time, but let's do it intentionally. What tax planning strategies do we need to look at? Roth conversions, other things that we need to do that not just beat the IRS out of taxes for 1 year, but beat the IRS out of taxes for 10, 15, 20 years into retirement. Sometimes by turning Social Security on a little too soon, you kind of, hamstring yourself just a little bit and you're not able to get as much tax planning as you should. The third thing I love to do as I look through this is really looking at the rate of return difference. For Social Security, I'm going to round, right? When you delay it between 62 and your full retirement age, it's roughly a 6% return that you're getting on this. From your full retirement age to 70, you're getting almost an 8% rate of return, an 8% increase in your Social Security benefit. Where are you getting 6% or 8% guaranteed right now? I don't know about you, but I don't see that money, right? Maybe in a good money market, you're getting like 4%. Maybe you're probably getting sub that, maybe 3.2%, something like that out there right now. So where are you getting that higher return? So if you don't need the cash flow coming in and we can do some good tax planning and it increases your survivor benefits and it grows by a higher percentage rate, why not let that money defer and to grow? It should at least be part of your calculation because this could be a massive part of your retirement plan. So now you know the 4 critical mistakes that most federal employees face when coming with retirement, and that could make a huge impact on their first retirement. But here's the most deal that most people don't even realize. Even if you avoid all these mistakes, there's still other ways that you can run out of money in retirement at the wrong time because you have the wrong amount saved, you have the wrong distribution strategy, emotions get involved, all these other things that can come in. That's exactly why we created this video right here. And we're going to walk through a real case study of a federal employee retiring at 57 with over $1 million saved and whether they can actually afford to retire or not. Till next time, happy planning.
The content in Plan Your Federal Retirement is for general informational purposes only and should not be considered individualized advice. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal, and past performance does not guarantee future results. Guests are not affiliated with CWM LLC Investment Advisory Services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.